Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I am Ricky Camilleri. Our next guest, Jade Tailor, has been delighting audiences for 3 seasons on Syfy's The Magicians. Let's take a look at her work.
Sorry, I thought you went to rehab.
This is where they stick you when you don't have insurance. Upside. I'm the least crazy person in here. What do you want?
Hold this.
Why? Oh my God. No, wait.
You just need to hold this.
Oh my God.
Just gonna give you 2 a moment.
Everybody, please welcome Jade Tailor. Let's hear it. Hey.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
For
I
taking the
appreciate it.
time.
Of course, of
Making
course.
it out.
Of course. Thanks.
Let's talk about The Magicians.
Yes, let's.
One of the things that I love about this show is that when I first was told to watch it, I was like, a magic show, it's gonna be probably fairly serious and heavy on the drama and just sort of like big magic tricks. And then I watched it and it's really cheeky and it's really funny and it really seems like the writers are having a really good time.
Yes.
And they sort of know you guys and are writing for you as well.
This is very true. Yeah. Our writers are absolutely incredible. If you go to the writers' room, which is in LA, across from Paramount, you go inside and they have all of these cards up on the wall for every episode. But then there's a wall of basically the things that they're not going to put in the show that are a little too raunchy or a little too inappropriate. It's pretty hilarious. And just like random statements, and it's just...
What's on that wall under your name?
I think it's a little too inappropriate for our viewers.
I mean, you are allowed to curse and say whatever you want.
This is true. Well, I mean, honestly, the list goes on. I can't remember specifics right now, but I mean, there's some crazy things on the wall. But they do. They have so much fun. I mean, we have the best time. We have the most incredible cast, crew, writers, producers. We're just really, really lucky, and we do all have an amazing time. And I think the audience can see that.
You absolutely can tell on screen, and that's one of the. I think one of the crazy things about this show is because there are lots of cable shows and there are lots of cable dramas and cable comedies, but it's a rarity that a show actually feels like you get a vibe that everybody is having a pretty good time.
Yeah, I agree, and it's the most fun I've had on a show. So
when did it start to feel like that on the show?
You know, I think like anything, at first, you know, we start out a little rocky, and you're feeling it out, and by season 2. It's just, we were so comfortable and everybody knew the characters, and I think there's such unique personalities, I think, and you can see it in the characters. And it really just came to life, and I think we all just were like, we realized that we were working on such an incredible show that is so fun, and with the writers, what they give us to work with, they make it just so enjoyable, and so it's just a gift to work on.
Was it going to be as sort of comical as it is, like at the beginning, or did everyone sort of realize that you guys were all pretty funny and knew how to handle doing this, and they started doing it more and more?
You know, I'm not quite sure. I think I don't know if you've read the books, but they're fairly they're fairly like drab and dark and serious. I don't think there's as many comedic elements, but I think just our creators and writers just are hilarious, and so I think that lends itself to, you know, what they've created. But I think also a lot of the characters are funny. A lot of the people are funny. My character, I think, is the only one that isn't. Yeah, I was gonna say, the one. Yeah,
I mean, if no one has seen the show that's watching this, like that clip isn't a great example of the humor of the show.
No, totally. But I mean, for the most part, there is a lot of comedy. My character is the one that I think is really grounded in reality and is very, very serious. Ironically, I think I'm the goofiest person on the show, but you know.
Do you ever ask for more jokes? Like, come on, guys, can I get a few comments?
I love that she's the grounding force for the show in so many ways. Like, she deals with the most heartache and the most difficult circumstances, I think. I mean, everybody deals with difficult circumstances, but she's had to deal with a lot of death. She's lost, you know, you just saw that she's technically lost the love of her life, essentially. I mean, he's in the astral plane, but she thinks that he's dead, and she lost her best friend, she's lost her mother. She really deals, and she deals with addiction. She deals with really real stuff. She does, and for me, I appreciate that kind of work because I want, and this might sound cheesy, but I love to inspire people, and I hope that telling those real stories will inspire people, knowing that they're not alone going through the circumstances. And so for me, it's a gift to be able to represent, the darkness and the shadow side of things.
When did you start acting?
Ooh, a long time ago.
What started it? What was the, what happened?
What happened was it wasn't a specific moment. My mom always says that I just came out acting. I've been a little
Like out of the womb? Like
out of
you
the
were,
womb.
like the doctor pulled you out?
Jazz hands.
Yeah, exactly.
No, my mom was a performer back in the day, years ago. She was on a show called Donnie and Marie. She was in the Ice Capades, and she played
Donnie Marie Osmond?
Yep, she played Donnie's love interest on the show, and she was in some films around like Carrie era. A film called Jennifer, which was another horror film about a girl that controlled killer snakes. So she was
so specific to the Carrie era.
Yeah, very specific. Isn't that interesting?
Really funny.
My mom played a mean girl, but anyway, she was a performer.
She played Jennifer in Jennifer?
No, she didn't.
Oh.
She didn't play Jennifer. But because my mom was a performer, she was always very encouraging of creativity in the arts. And I remember, her waking me up to Singing in the Rain, the Good Morning song every morning, and put me in dance and gymnastics at 2, 3, 4. I was singing, doing vocal lessons by the time I was 7, acting class at 10. So it's always been, I think, a part of who I am, not just because of my mom. I think I just came out into the world knowing that I wanted to do something in the creative arts. So
I bet that kind of helped having her as well when you actually decided to do it professionally, and she could kind of help you navigate how you do certain things and what to expect.
Yes and no. She actually, well, it wasn't, so she ended up becoming a holistic nutritionist, so a very different field. But she actually, because she was working bi-coastally, she's like, when you're 18, do whatever you want, but I'm not doing anything until then. Like, you have to do it by yourself. And so it actually, it forced some independence and yeah, and also my dad had the opposite mentality. He's Israeli and a very stubborn businessman. And so he's like, I don't know what this is that you're doing. Is this a real job? Like, he would never really encourage it. So for me, it was just, I knew that it was something that I had to do for me. And so, as soon as I could, I just pursued it.
When did you book your first gig?
Oh, goodness. My first gig. Well, I got my first manager at 18. I was in an acting class, and my teacher recommended me to someone.
Well, were you already auditioning before the manager kind of thing?
No.
Okay. So your mother wouldn't let you audition or anything before?
I mean,
18?
I did theater throughout school, and I was doing a lot of music stuff. And so I had done a demo at, first demo at 14, and, performed and did this. The national anthem for a Clippers game. I had been performing all the time, but
like a Disney kid or anything?
No, I wasn't a Disney kid. No, I mean, I had an agent, I guess, at a year old, but nothing ever came of it. I think my dad was like, "No, this is not happening," and I do a terrible Israeli accent.
Not bad.
No, thanks. Well, he also learned how to speak English in South Africa, so there's like a weird twang to it. But so it wasn't until I was 18 when I got the manager and I started getting out there. I did some small indie films and a lot of theater outside of, after I graduated from high school. And then I think my, first big TV gig was True Blood, which was, years back. So then
What was it like getting on that set?
Oh my God, it was so much fun. It was the best time. I don't know if you're familiar with Stephen Moyer, but I got to act opposite him, and he's a goofball. He's such a goofball. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the show or with the character that I played, but essentially I was Stephen's first human that he ate. And so in between takes, we're like spitting fake blood at each other. It was just, I just remember, for whatever reason, it was the most fun experience, and I was like, I could do this every day for the rest of my life. This is fantastic. And but he set a tone for me to like.
He's a very nice man.
Very, very nice man, but also knowing that it is serious and, there to like do your job, but also it can be really fun and enjoyable. And so yeah, he set the tone for me. It's been a journey ever since.
What was the audition like for The Magicians?
Oh, I was actually working on a show called Aquarius, playing opposite David Duchovny, and the executive producer, John McNamara, is our executive producer of Magicians.
Did you not have to audition?
I did have to audition. I did. But he did come up to me while I was shooting Aquarius, and he goes, I'm doing this new project. It's called The Magicians. I had actually just heard about the books from a friend of mine saying, oh, you have to read them. They're amazing. And anything John does, I'm like, whatever you're doing, I'm there. You want me there, I'm there. So I was like, yeah, absolutely, anytime, let me know. So I get the script for The Magicians, and I'm reading it, and I really fall in love with this character, Kady. But she dies. She died in that first beast attack, and I went, oh, okay, well, maybe, let me see if there's another character. So I go through, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go in for Margot because it's a more significant role. So I went and read for Margot, which, very different from Kady. And both very strong females, but very, very different. And read for it, and I get a call that day saying they loved you, but they think you're better for Kady, and they want you to meet with the director. And I was like, okay, well, I guess it'll just be a one-off. I'll, go in and, if I get the role, I die, it's fine, I'll do another show. And I go in, basically get the job on the spot, and they send me a new script, and they're like, by the way, there's a new script. I get it. The dean dies. I was like, yes, there's hope.
Kady lives.
Kady lives. So yeah, and then basically that started as a one-off, and then it was a recurring character, and then became a series regular. So it just kept, moving up. And I'm the only. It's fascinating. I'm the only character that isn't technically in the books. She's derived off of a couple different characters. There's Amanda Orloff, who actually did die. Again, you're not familiar with the book, so she dies in the beast attack. At the beginning of the books. But it was just like...
How do you find that sits with the fans, that you're a character that's not in the original book?
Everybody's been so incredibly supportive, and I think there's a huge differentiation between the fans of the books and the fans of the show. And we've sort of converted a lot of the book fans over to the show, but I think people really take the show for what it is, because it is vastly different from the books. Right. And so, yeah, everybody's been incredibly supportive and seem to love it. So
now, you were telling me in the green room that you do a lot of work with the National Women's Museum.
National Women's History Museum.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I've been a big supporter of the National Women's History Museum. For those who don't know, it actually doesn't technically exist yet. We are looking to create it at the mall in DC, and for me, I have a movement called I Rise, which is basically about supporting and inspiring women. And my production company, Iris Entertainment, it was originally started to depict women in a positive and inspirational manner. I'm also a domestic violence counselor, something I'm very, very passionate about. And it started...
When did you start doing that?
About officially 5 years ago. Wow. 5 years ago. Yeah, it's, again, something I've always been passionate about, is about supporting women in every sense, and for them to see their own worth, and to overcome challenges and obstacles in life. And I've been through my fair share, as most of us have, and to be able to then support others that might be going through the same thing, it feels like my mission in life. And so
I gotta ask, what does it feel like to have made that your mission, and to hold something clearly sacred, and to have the past couple of days happen in the news where we have seen that is somehow not sacred to our president and the administration? Yeah,
I mean, that's why it's been, for me, sort of a driving force. I see all these things, and it's either you can be minimized by it, and you can be affected by it in a negative way, and you can feel like a victim because of these circumstances, or you can take it at face value and go, okay, well, these are the circumstances. How can I make a difference, and how can I change this? How can I change this for other people, so this isn't going to be the reality for our future generations? And so, for me, like I was saying to you earlier, is creating content that depicts women in a positive manner is really important to me. And also, there's a famous quote: "If you can see it, you can be it." Like I said to you, and I think representation, and so being an example for our young girls and our and our peers, knowing that like we're supporting one another and they're not alone. And so even though there might be somebody that's in a position of power, that we don't feel diminished or minimized because of that we can actually still support one another and we can overcome that. And so I've been creating a lot of content that does that, and sort of showcasing women in our history so that our young girls see that there are like a lot of powerful women. I think it's that I was told that there's 20% of our history books include women. And so, I mean, if I ask you, how many women do you remember in our history books, I'm sure you can only name a few, when you can probably name a lot more male figures. And so I think it's just important to shift.
I can't really name anybody. You're
Right?
giving me too much credit.
Well, there we go. Well, see, that's most people's reaction, and I find it so fascinating. And so I think it's really important in this day and age with
Name like the director of photography on a Scorsese movie from the late 70s, but a figure
hell, I
from
can't
history.
do that,
I can't.
so.
I got nothing. But that's also probably a man. So
This is true. Yeah. This is true. But again, so it's I think really important to give examples of that so people can see that there are really strong women that have created really amazing things in the world.
Absolutely. Let's get some questions from our audience. Who has a question? Oh, hi. You do.
So the spells that are in the show are just so unique and interesting. If you can choose one that would actually work, which one would you choose?
Oh, one that would actually work. I'm trying to think of the ones the other characters would have, because Kady just does battle magic all the time, and I mean, I think that's comparable to just punching somebody out. So, I think, recently we've seen Julia have like these magical abilities, and you see her in the last episode bring Kady back after having ODing essentially, and I would love that to work, to be able to have the power to like heal people and bring people back to life. That would be ideal. Right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Next question. Right here.
Hi, you.
So apart
I
from
like your sweatshirt.
Big fan.
I have the same one.
apart from Penny coming back to life, what do you think would make Kady like happiest and most secure in her story and her life?
Oh, that's a great question. I think this is the first time we see her actually trying to find happiness within herself, because if we followed her trajectory and her storyline, we see that everything that she does is actually, I know she's a little bit of a rebel and, a little bit unstable, but she does it to help other people. The things that she was doing before, stealing from Brakebills, all that was to help her mother. The things that she was doing in season 2 was to help Julia. And I think this is the first time you see her take a stand and say, no, I need to actually take care of myself. And I think in society, for everybody, I think it's important that we look at ourselves and we take care of ourselves first. They say, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so she's constantly trying to save everybody else, and I think she really needs to save herself. And I think that will essentially, bring her some sense of groundedness and happiness, hopefully. But, it's Kady. It's a challenge. So that's my hope for her.
Next question. I think this is our last question.
Hi.
Hi.
So playing Kady, do you often see yourself within the character when you were playing it for like 3 seasons now?
Do I see myself in the character?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think I'm the most different. If you ask any of the cast members, I'm the most different from my character. But I will say that I've learned from her, and I do see myself more so in her now than I did at the beginning, which is interesting. She's a very vulnerable person, even though she has this tough exterior. But I think she doesn't care what anybody else thinks. All she cares about is, getting the job done or taking care of what she needs to take care of. And I think I've learned a little bit from that, because I, in the past, would take care of everybody else and wanted to make sure everybody else was okay. And I realized that, sometimes it's really okay to take care of yourself and be, put yourself as a priority. And so I've learned from her. And so I do see myself a little bit more in her every day.
Do you have to find a part of yourself to play scenes well, or can you sort of just get into that character?
For me, it's, I try not to pull from my own experience. I've done, if you're familiar with like Stella Adler work, it's really about like backstory and creating somebody else outside of who you are. And so I've really tried to understand who she is separate from myself. And it's like every time I read a script, I'm like, okay, well, what would that circumstance be like for me? Because I haven't gone through any of the circumstances that she has. And for the most part. And so really just believing that I'm in it and believing that those experiences are happening, and knowing where she came from, and that informs who somebody is in this moment, right? So, I guess, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No,
Like,
that
I think
answers the
so.
question just fine. That's
Yeah,
great.
okay, yeah.
Jade, it's a pleasure talking to you. The Magicians
You
is on
too.
Syfy.
It is,
What
and
night?
Netflix.
And Netflix. But this season, what night is it? on?
Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock.
Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
Jade Tailor, everybody, give it a round of applause.
Thank you so much.